Yay! I hope we're live. I'm so excited because tonight I am going to be talking with the beautiful Rachel Sizemore. And Rachel is a fellow sex, love, and relationship coach. And she is also the host of the hit podcast Ripen, where she helps women get out of their head and into their bodies so they can feel pleasure and desire again. Yay!
Yeah.
And welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So tonight we are actually going to dive in a little bit to what happens when sex is no longer as fun and delicious as it used to be and what you can do about that. So really quick, before we get started, Rachel, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Well, you had a really lovely introduction for me right there. And exactly as you said, I'm really passionate about helping women get out of their heads and back into their bodies. It's like we are so disconnected from a major source of pleasure and energy and motivation. And it's because we're all in the head all the time, beating ourselves up, trying to do everything, being obligated to the shoulds and how we think it should look. And it's like, can we just walk away from all of that, and not in the like numb out with TV and alcohol way, but in the like get into our bodies and the juiciness of life way. And yeah, that's my jam and my passion, and it leads to all kinds of yumminess.
I love it. So I think we should just get right down to the goods. And I want to ask you, I know this is something that can happen a lot with women. And, what would you say would be with women when they are starting to feel where they're not really enjoying sex as much, or maybe it's painful? What would you say, your experience has been in this area, or what can you share around kind of what you've learned to help you?
Yeah. So what's so interesting, which I'm excited to share, is for me when I sort of discovered what was going on for me, I was almost unaware of it. Like I had just sort of, sex had kind of become one more thing on my list. Like I still wanted to connect with my partner, and I was still having sex regularly. But I didn't even know that it wasn't feeling as juicy and delicious anymore. Like it was just a thing. And I had sort of forgotten how awesome it used to be. And I think a lot of women are going through that. Like I talk with women and they're like, I don't want my husband to last longer. And like, hey, can we just get this over with? and I was carrying around a story, and I think this might be common for other women too, that I was broken, that there was something wrong with me, that I just wasn't a really sexual person, or I didn't have a strong desire. And that story, like I was saying, we're in our heads. It just creates a bunch of mess, right? Because if I have that story, then there's nothing to do. And I just shut down. But starting to recognize like, okay, well, maybe this is just something going on or in my body. Maybe I could explore a little more and open up out of that story a little bit. It's like, ooh, now we're talking possibilities.
Oh, yes, I totally hear that. So I'm going to ask you because, I know that you have taught me a couple of great tips. And I think one of the things you mentioned before is kind of like talking a little bit about when this is a physical issue or when it's a relational issue. Could you talk to that for a second?
Yeah. So I think this is a really important thing to note, that when sex isn't feeling as juicy or yummy anymore, it can be for two main reasons, right? It could be because there's something going on in your relationship. Like there's a physical, relational disconnection between you and your partner, where you're harboring anger towards him or her. You've got some issues, some things that are emotional that you need to work through. Like that is going to help. That's a huge piece towards wanting and desiring sex with your partner, right? Yes. But then there's also a physical element, and this is what I realized was actually more what was happening for me. And I think, we can obviously be having a combination of these two, right? But where we actually have physical things going on that are dampening our desire, that could be totally separate or in combination with more of a relational thing.
Gotcha. So when you're talking to physical versus relational, like what would you say would be a couple of tips that you could look at to try to remedy this?
Yeah. So I have three things I want to share in terms of things you could try if you're having a physical issue where sex isn't feeling as yummy and delicious. So the first thing is to note and pay attention to how long it takes you to be fully aroused. So in general, women, it can take them from 12, 15, up to 45 minutes to be aroused enough for sex. And I've been with my partner 11 years. 45 minutes of foreplay is not something we've done since 2006, okay? Let's be honest. This is not how it goes. And what I realized as I started doing this work is that if your body isn't ready for sex, it is not going to feel good, no matter how much lube you slab on that penis. And so it's like, that is the first thing I go to with women when they're saying they're having pain during sex or they're just not that into it. It's like, take the time to figure out what you need to get fully aroused. And that could look like playing by yourself in the bathroom for a few minutes before. It could look like dancing. I know you have some awesome tips on that, Amanda. Chatting with your partner, figuring out what really turns you on, and very delicately over time sharing those tips with him so that he can help you get to where you need to be. So first big thing, check in with your arousal. Second big thing, cultivate a relationship with your yoni, with your pussy, with your vagina. And that sounds a little out there, right? Like what? And I actually refer to my vagina as she and her. My husband is like, there's a third person in our marriage now. Like, what the fuck? But it's honestly huge because it's part of understanding your levels of arousal. It's part of understanding your vagina's openness or willingness for penetration. Like when you're in conversation with her, then you can know, is this the right thing for me to do right now? And if we don't check in, if we don't have a relationship with our vagina, which I certainly did not before I started doing this work, we're just going around letting penises in there all the time. Or the one penis, whatever, without checking in. And I honestly think that it was just many years of having loving consensual sex with my partner. Like I was never not mentally ready. That I think over time caused me to build up numbness, that caused me to stop having as good sensation with sex. And so it can be challenging as you're forming this relationship with your vagina to like explain it to your partner and be like, by the way, we can't have sex tonight because my vagina said no. But as you learn to honor her, the sensation can start to come back. And that's just like, oh my God. Like when you're actually really feeling sex and you're really aroused, it's like, oh, I understand what everyone is talking about.
I love how you're saying, taking the time to honor her and listening in to your body and what it needs. So what is the conversation? How did you start having a conversation with yourself, with your yoni?
Yeah. So creating that relationship starts with a self-pleasure practice. A solo sex practice. And that could be as simple as being gentle and intimate with your body in the shower. If you really want to see results, lock the door to your bedroom and get in there and play. And truly, and when I first started doing this like regularly, it was like, is this really something like a grown American woman has time for? Like I can do this and like the police aren't going to show up and tell me I'm being unproductive. But it's like, so powerful to have a self-pleasure practice, being with your body, being with your yoni. Hey, what's up? What do you like? What feels good? And through that, either with a sex toy, a jade egg, or your fingers, you can kind of get up to the entrance and start to feel whether your vagina is a yes or no to penetration. And that will come in different ways for different people. So some people are going to hear. They're going to hear a clear answer. Some people are going to have more of like a sense, like, and then some people will have more of like a physical feeling at the entrance. You may have some mix of all three. No one can tell you how your vagina communicates to you. You just got to get in there and find out. So it's really an invitation to explore that and check it out. But yeah, I think self-pleasuring and creating a little bit of a practice around that, if it's regular, even if it's just a few times, can really help you build that relationship.
I totally hear what you're saying and agree, because I think, like you said, it's so important. Like if you don't know it feels good to you, you're not going to be able to get that from anyone else. Like you have to take the time to figure that out for yourself so you can know for yourself and tell your partner what you need. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And so the third thing you can do if you're feeling some numbness or lack of sensation or sex isn't as juicy anymore is, and this is a really gentle process, but just start to explore if there might be old energies or blockages that are in your pelvic region. So for me, I shared, I really felt like it had registered in my body as some degree of trauma that I had had so much sex without checking in. And sex with the same man, loving consensual sex that like I just hadn't honored my arousal and really checked in with my body. There could be other reasons for that numbness too. It could come from sexual violation, either a physical sexual act. It could have been just someone grabbing you by the arms. It could be someone verbally abusing you. Any kind of attack or violation or way in which it didn't feel safe to be you and your sexual body. And in our culture, that could even be as simple as when you were a young girl and you wanted to wear a skirt or a sexy dress or something, and you got told by your parents that it was bad or wrong. And so just a little more light for you, just the invitation to look at that there may be some stored energy of old just crap that you don't need anymore. And there's lots of healing tools out there to help release some of this. Just being in self-pleasure with your body, with your yoni, talking to her, she will share with you what she needs. You can play around with a healing crystal dildo. The jade egg is a wonderful tool. There's all kinds of good things, but recognizing that there just may be some old crap in the way that is dampening your sensation and getting in the way of you really enjoying yummy sex.
Yes, that's so true. You don't even realize the things that build up, and especially over time. And like you said, even though you're with your partner who you love, just not really abiding by what you really need, it can just, like you said, build so much resentment. So
yeah, and it was all in the vagina. Like literally, I didn't have conscious awareness of it. I just started playing around with more of this stuff and getting excited and that when I started feeling more in my vagina was when I was like, oh, I was really having some numbness then. And that's part of why I wasn't enjoying sex in the same way. And so like doing some of these healing practices, it's a little bit of work, sure, but it's like, oh my God. Yeah. So amazing. And then the connection that I get to have with my partner that I really crave, and like really being there and having amazing sex. Like it's not only good for you, they love it too. Like they want to have you to have amazing time too. So there's just, there's so much goodness in it.
Yeah. And I think like you mentioned too, is just to like be gentle with yourself and realize it's normal. Like so many people go through this, and there's hope because there's things you can do.
Totally. And you are not alone. And it's just like, you're not broken. Like you're not broken. I was carrying around that story for so long that it was just like something wrong with me and oh well, and it's just not true. It's not true. So
yeah. And I think with this type of thing, everybody it's not one of the things that you have on your list of to-dos, or even if you're very into growth and development and everything like that, I feel like sexuality is such a missing link because, it's one of those things that people typically don't have on the top of the priority list. Maybe they love it, maybe they don't, but it's not something that you actively think about. All right, well, I'm going to figure out how to nurture this side of myself, but that's kind of a simple thing that it takes. And it's not like it takes a ton of time, like you mentioned. It's just taking that awareness and giving yourself some time to explore that and to make it a priority.
Yeah. And I think the secret is seriously getting out that like, this kind of work is better than any other personal growth work you can do. Because so much personal growth just reinforces this image that we have more to fix and more things we need to figure out. And exploring sexuality it's about pleasure, and it's about unleashing your personal power and owning your worth. And it's like, hell yes.
What this does, right? So much for us.
Yeah, it's a serious source of power and pleasure. And it's like our lives are going to get good and happy when we do things that make us feel good and happy. And let's be honest, like a 5-minute solo sex session, that is going to leave you feeling good. It just is.
Yeah. And I'd love to, I know if anyone is out there watching and has questions, please feel free to post them below because we would be happy to address those. And also, if you are liking what you're hearing, make sure to send some likes and loves and share this with your friends who you think could benefit. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll post below, but Rachel has an amazing podcast called Ripen. And you can also find her at rachelsizemore.com. So I'll post that below. But, I know one of the questions that someone asked me today was, how does this relate to feeling more desire for your partner? And I don't know what you would say to that. So I would be curious your answer there.
Yeah. So there's kind of two pieces. One, I guess maybe three pieces. One, when sex feels better, you want it more. So when I was numb, I was doing the sex thing because I wanted to be a good wife and it was fine. I liked it. It wasn't like, oh, I hate this. But now I'm like, that was good. Give me some more, please. When you have a biological, connection for it, I don't know, whatever that chemical is that makes you be like, coffee's delicious, I want some more. It's sex is delicious, I want some more. So getting back into the sensation, doing some of the things we talked about already will help build the desire. Getting it out of your head and into your body builds desire. So when we're in our heads, we don't have any time for desire. You could have a sexual desire wave go through you and not even notice because you're holding 10 million things and doing all the stuff and forget it. If you aren't in your body, you're not going to feel desire, period. And so sinking in, spending any time just feeling, even if it's just in the shower, how does my body feel? Being more in it, checking in with yourself. How do I feel today? Just to practice that simple can help you recognize the desire that is there because we're kind of missing it. And then the third piece can be more of that relational piece, which, we could do a whole video on, where there can be emotional healing and intimacy that you create with your partner that can help generate that.
And one of the things you mentioned that I want to loop back to was regarding increasing desire. When you have an experience you enjoy, recapping at the end of it. I know you're I love you, the queen of the recap. So explain what that means.
Oh my God, I'm so into the recap. So when we start doing this work, it can be a little bit, it could be a little tender or sensitive to talk with your partner about what you're going through. If you're doing a self-pleasure practice, if you're forming a relationship with your yoni, and especially I have been with my partner a long time, you've been doing sex a certain way a long time, you start to shake things up and you can shake the foundation for them. And, what most people want is to feel like they're good enough and they're wanted and they're needed and they're doing a good job. And, our partners, that's what they want from sex. In the sex realm, they want to feel like they're providing for us. And so it can be delicate to start creating change in that area and not rock the boat too much. And so I think the recap is just an amazing, amazing tool to communicate about sex in a really fun, positive, and effective way. And essentially what you do is you set the intention before you have sex and you say to your partner, hey, I learned about this thing. Amanda and Rachel tell me I should try it. It's called the recap. And what we'll do is after we have sex, we will take turns sharing about our experience and we will listen intently to the other person, no comments, no judgments, and no self-criticism. This isn't about hearing what I say and taking on blame. This is about exploring what we like, what makes us feel good. So you set the intention before to have this really juicy, loving, creative exploration type space where everyone feels loved and safe. And we're just trying to make great sex even better, right? That's how you would sort of frame it with your partner. And then after the sex, you start. Who wants to go first? Okay, maybe you have to go first the first time because he doesn't know what you're talking about, and that's fine. And you share what went well. And this is your chance to be okay, maybe you've secretly wanted to have your hair pulled for 5 years and you haven't been able to get it out. It's like, hey, you touched my hair and that felt really good. And what would feel even better if you like pulled on it a little bit. Like, I've always thought that'd be fun. It's sort of your opportunity to praise the things that you loved and really appreciate and love your partner up and make him or her feel really good. And then also sneak in a couple of things that could help make sex even better. And to be honest, as you do this, you will see like you love that feedback. Men especially love that feedback because they don't know what the heck they're doing and they want anything they can find out about you that they can make you more happy and more pleasured. So it's like giving them those little tidbits. You want to do it in a way that feels really uplifting and good, but it's like gold to them for how they can, try and please you more. And same, you get to learn about them. What do they like? What works best for them? Maybe you're always using one kind of stroke, but the other kind of stroke is the best kind. And when you do the recap for a while, you start to create a sexual culture in your marriage or partnership where it's safe and okay to talk about what you like and what you want. And the recap creates a really safe container for learning that.
I think that's so important because the one thing we can't talk to with our partner, who is our closest, intimate person in our life, is sex life.
For sure. Like when I first started this, my husband and I hardly talked about sex. And my husband and I are best friends. Like we are so close. We talk about everything. But it's like money and sex, we have to like tiptoe into the conversation. And now, sex hardly feels like a trigger. It's like we can communicate about it so much. And I really think the recap was huge in getting to that level of openness.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all the juicy nuggets that you shared.
Thanks for having me. I can talk about this all day.
Right? We'll have to do it again because we could. And again, check out Rachel's podcast, Ripen. I will also post her website, Rachel Sizemore, below. And I know we touched on the beautiful powers of the jade egg, which I've been talking about all week. So I will post a link to that as well. And please ask questions. And if you enjoyed it, share it, send us some likes and little hearts and love. And we hope that you have an awesome night. And thank you so much for listening. Do you have any last words?
Definitely check out the jade egg. We talked about it as a healing tool. It's been huge in my journey in helping heal and generate sensation. So I love that you're talking about it this week and can't wait for all these lovely ladies to give it a try.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda.